I'm Jed Flynn, I'm from Papyrus Prevention Young Suicide. I'm really excited, genuinely, to talk to a new colleague today we've not met yet. I'm looking forward to a conversation about broadly two things. Being deaf, being a person who may be thinking about suicide, and a third thing, how we can work together to save lives.
My name's Deborah Cartledge and I'm the CEO of the Deaf Village Northwest, which is based in Blackburn. We have created a community for our deaf community. We empower, engage and provide opportunities, and we're so excited to work with Papyrus to provide a platform so that deaf people who use sign language can access services if so they are feeling suicidal.
I want to start by saying thank you for what you do.
Yeah.
My sign language is a bit old now, but I'll try a little bit. But I want to say, really, to begin, I want Papyrus to be known everywhere in the UK, and particularly I have an interest, as I hope you'll find out, in the deaf and the hard of hearing, and the acquired deaf communities. So if we can work together, that'd be fantastic for me.
Do you know what is absolutely refreshing is to come to an organisation who are open to making accessible services accessible, especially for deaf people. It is a real hidden community, really, and often forgot about. So for an organisation, a national organisation like yourselves that are prepared to work with each other, and we're obviously experts in our own area, to come together, it's just absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I think it's important to say that leadership is vital here. Accessibility sometimes happens by accident, but it's important. It's hard if the people at the top, the chief exec is not with it. So
Yes.
I pride myself on learning all the time about improving access, not just for deaf people, for disabled people. I also want to say this because talk about suicide is difficult. If you're watching this, it can bring up feelings that are new or old, and it can bring them up again. So it's important to say, be careful, help me,
Yeah,
be careful.
Yeah.
But as we talk together, Deb, I find there is a lot of similarity between being deaf and thinking about suicide. Let me explain a little bit. Being deaf in a hearing world can be impossible, really difficult, and you have to pretend. Thinking about suicide can be difficult, so you pretend and you keep it silent. Mm-hmm. Do you understand?
It's all that complete isolation.
So the person who's thinking just now about suicide is more than their suicidal thinking, but the world reduces that person to that part, the suicidal thought. And I have to be honest, and sometimes I reduce you to your sign language, or to your cochlear implant, or to this part of you. And already I know that there's much more to Deb's than being deaf.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's a sort of synergy between being deaf in a hearing world and being suicidal, thinking about suicide in a world that refuses to think and to help.
Yeah, for a deaf person, navigating a hearing world is extremely difficult. From the minute you wake up to the minute you close your eyes, you imagine the amount of kind of life admin, work, friendship, healthcare, everything is a barrier. We've witnessed services like the crisis team passing a telephone number to a deaf person and said, when you're in crisis, here's a number for you. I mean, it's just absolutely mind-blowing that happens today. Here's a telephone number for you. When you're in crisis, it means you don't want to be here anymore. You know, I could write several books on examples of things that I personally have witnessed over the 25 years of being in this field, and it's absolutely heartbreaking.
You remind me of a story. Only a few years ago, I visited hospital. Oh, all these signs are coming back.
Yeah.
Hospital. A lady that I used to work with, and she was prelingually deaf, and 3 days and nights in the bed, alone, no visitors. So I came and said, "Hi, how are you, Sally?" Whatever her name was. And the nurse said to me, "Oh, you can sign." I said, "Oh, a bit old now." And she said, "Ask her what she wants to eat." What? No, nothing for her.
No.
Just a little bit of lip read. Nothing.
This happens daily. So we have a live document. So just only this month only, I mean, we've got 16 people who haven't been able to access their hospital appointments because an interpreter didn't turn up. Interpreters don't not turn up. No. They're not booked. No, there was an incident. It was a member of staff, and it was only recently. Thought he was having a heart attack. Went to hospital. Wife is deaf as well, but they just happened to have the friend's daughter with her. She's only 11. Her mum's deaf, so she does sign. And they said, "Can we use her to interpret?" A child. No, it's completely against
all the
that.
ethics. Yeah.
You know.
I'm quietly excited about the potential for us working together, and not just with yourselves, but with the whole deaf
Community,
and
yeah.
hard-hearing communities, because everybody's different. Everybody needs something new all the time.
Yeah.
I think I'm really keen that we don't reduce, I keep saying it fairly rubbishly, the deaf person to their being deaf. You are a woman, you might be a mum, you might be a dog owner, you might be a jogger, you might have benefit problems, you might be able to... My prelingually deaf friend speaks English proficiently and is brilliant at Spanish. I can't speak Spanish, and I think, how did you do that?
Yeah,
so we reduce each other sometimes to, you know, my colleague in fundraising, I think, oh, they're good at raising funds. I don't know that they might be a scuba diver as well.
I know. Oh,
We've got to look
exactly.
at the whole
do you know?
person.
So we do this at work as well, right? So it's like, okay, so you're coming in to do this job, but hey, what do you like doing?
That's right, yeah.
What do you things you do? Honestly, we pick up on. So you have got that talent. You're kidding.
That's right.
Sometimes people keep that quiet. Do you know what I mean? But we tend to tease everything out of them.
Yeah. Nobody knows that I'm a striptease. That's a joke. That's a joke. But, you know, we've got to look at the whole person. And it's really important to me, because if we have any expertise, and beware of anyone who says they're experts, particularly in our subject, suicide, if there's any expertise in it, it wouldn't be the leading cause of cause of death in this country. So we're getting some things wrong. We're still not learning from the person whose individuality is part of their suicide story. If ever our advisors pick the phone up and think, I've heard this before, they should finish, because every person's story is unique.
Well, that's it. When we've all got a story, haven't we?
But we are much more than our ideation. And one of the things I would be saying to you, if you were thinking about suicide, right now, Debs, you're thinking about suicide. Were you thinking about it yesterday? And you might say yes. What about the day? Were you always? Well, no. And then we can actually, not only we can juxtapose the want to die and the tiny bit that wants to live. We can juxtapose, and we can do this, and then the person can make a decision to stay safe from suicide for now. But it also reminds me and you that we are more than now. And that's beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely.
You are more than being deaf. I know that politically, I'm gay. I wouldn't want to be straight. Some people who are gay, I imagine, want to be straight. We're all different.
So my deafness, when I was younger, it was like really tried to come to terms and understand why I was deaf, you know, and
yeah,
I couldn't. And it was later on in life when I realised I've had to go through these really harsh lessons, these really tough times, these where I've been really hard on myself because I haven't been able to learn like everybody else because I couldn't hear what was going on. And for me, it's just remind you of what life is, you know, because it is so. We've all got your own unique stories, haven't we? But I think just going on from that, the reason why I had to suffer and go through all those life lessons is it put me on this path to opening the deaf village.
Fantastic.
To understand what it is and have that empathy and that understanding and that realising that, you know, I can speak, but a lot of my colleagues that I work with don't. They use sign language, and this is the barrier, the massive barrier. So if I hadn't have gone through all those terrible, difficult time where I had to question myself and why, I wouldn't have been doing what I'm doing now. And I think for setting up the deaf village and putting us on the map, so to speak, creating an environment where deaf people felt safe and they could access services. We can support them accessing services. They feel a belonging. They can communicate in their own language. It's their belonging, which then entails our organisations meeting. Because if we didn't have that community and you didn't do what you've done and drove and created and developed this organisation, where would we be? So it's just absolutely amazing that...
I think it's really important that there's so much going on in my head, but that belonging and connection
We all need it.
is important as a human being. But in our sort of strategy, we've put 3 things to be innovative, to be sustainable, and to be a leader. But our culture is 3 things. And one of those is to be the best. Mm-hmm. One of those is to think very carefully about all the decisions we make.
Yeah.
But importantly, the main one is to build connection and belonging. I want to reflect back to you. I think I know your favourite word.
Ooh, go on.
Privilege.
Privileged, absolutely, because...
Say more.
Yeah.
Privilege.
Yeah.
Just say what comes when I say that word for you.
What comes, a privilege, that hearing people have a privilege that they take for granted daily, and without realising it, it's no criticism, because it's just something naturally we're given, you know, but deaf people don't have that.
Yes.
And just imagine how privileged we are now to be sat here getting to know you.
That's right.
I mean, I've learnt loads about you, really interesting stuff,
Yes.
great stuff.
Yes.
And if one of my deaf colleagues was sat here without an interpreter, none of you are getting that privilege.
That's right.
None of you can try your best.
So I use that word a little bit differently. I often say to my colleagues, we have the privilege to help. Mm-hmm. But to be personal, I want to say this, it's important. If you hadn't had that personal experience of isolation, you wouldn't have the same felt experience to translate that into building this charity. And I want to dare to say, it's a little bit similar for me. So growing up, I felt very isolated, had to pretend, had to go along with follow the crowd, but I felt completely different to them. And as an aside, I'm also thinking about autistic people.
Mm-hmm.
Autistic people. Often we get story about people having to pretend. So I came to this charity almost by accident. I applied for the job. Why did I stay? Why do I stay? Every morning I get up and I don't want to make a difference. I want to be here as a constant for anyone who feels they have to pretend to be the same.
Yeah.
We are all the same in one thing.
Yeah.
we're all different.
Yeah, yeah.
We're all
So I
unique.
think the life puts on us that we all should be independent. But if we were all going to be all independent, we'd all be the same, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
And we're all completely different.
The only thing that unites us is that we're different.
Yeah, yeah.
Diversity can't be an option because we are so diverse,
I know.
aren't we?
It's like at work, you know. It's just when we get our team together and we've all got different skills, and you put them together, and my God, we become powerful because of all them skills that are together, which is just amazing to watch. But that is everybody.
Working in a charity just now is difficult. Funds are depleting. People are challenging, need is increasing. Tell me about what your challenges are as a charity.
Yeah, so it's obviously it's always thinking out the box, and you mentioned a word before about innovative. I really struggle saying that word because I'm dyslexic as well with sprinkles of ADHD. So I think it's always thinking out the box. It's always doing, when you do the right thing for people, the universe looks out for you. It absolutely does. And I think when you're doing things for other people and you are uniting, so what we've done at the village is created an army. So whether you're struggling in one area, there's always something that's going to come back, and it's always having that positive mindset as a leader as well. Do you know that the turning the negatives into a positive? When one door closes, another one opens. But we do face challenges, and that's always kind of funding. You know, if the funding goes, what are we going to do? But again, it's about staying focused. It's about bringing the team together, and I will never make a decision on my own. You know, it's always a group decision because my view, it can be completely different to them 10 people sat behind me. And I just think, I never thought about it that way. And do you know what? It's okay to go, I didn't think of it like that. Because do I know everything? No way. Absolutely no way. And I won't until I'm not here. Every day is a learning day. And I think once you can admit that, well, I'm not right good at that, but he is or she is. So why don't you do that? And I'm just going to do what I'm good at. And it's all about learning together. I think if you're in a safe place where you think, I don't know how to do that, shall we learn it together? Shall we learn it together?
I agree. I often say when I'm weak, I'm strong.
Yes.
When I'm strong, I've got to be careful. Because I think I know it all.
Yeah.
So a friend of mine, the best advice was to get used to saying I don't know. But let's find
absolutely.
out.
I don't know, and it's fine.
But if you keep again, that word
pretend.
The word pretend.
Yes.
The more we pretend, the more
Yeah.
dangerous it becomes.
Yeah.
But I do think it's difficult just now in the charity world. The Secretary of State is saying horrible things, saying, you know, certainly in the mental health world just now, we're over medicalising mental health. That's not help. It might partly be true, but it's not helpful. And language is so important. Charities are doing the best on the back of, often on the pennies of the poor, as I call it. But I think it's important as leaders that we share with each other our attitude and challenge each other sometimes and encourage each other. Keep going.
Yeah,
it is
absolutely.
Sometimes a bit lonely at the top, but I think that's the problem. People sometimes see you at the top. I don't see myself at the top. I'm a working class lad. For goodness, I see myself. I struggle to be. Put my tie on and be the posh person. I'm much happier actually at the grassroots. You know?
Absolutely.
I think modelling that is where we find strength. I turn to the team and say, you know how to make a video, I don't. You know how to.
It's about being authentic, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And I when we go out, you know, so this is CEO, and I just go, what's that? Exactly, what is that? Do you know? Because I am no better than our cleaner or our maintenance person or our support worker, our senior support worker, our finance lady. We are all equal. We've all got skills to contribute to make us amazing.
You're absolutely right. There's an image that accidentally is behind us here, and it's one of our films. You may have seen it, and it's called Sinking Feelings. We all have. I don't know what I can do sinking feelings, but I don't know what that actually translates into a deaf mind, so forgive me. But in English, for me, it might be different for you or the other person. A sinking feeling is let me go to my personal story. I may never have named this, but I'm different, I'm odd, I'm the one they'll think is stupid or deaf
I had it
or
all.
whatever.
I
do you
felt
know?
exactly the same.
Or I'm a girl in a man's world, or I'm a man in a girl, or whatever. And that deep internalized silence, being silenced, it's like disabled. It can be an active or a passive verb. I was silenced. I was disabled by a world.
How many years did you suffer being in silence?
I knew I was different when I was 12.
Yeah.
I named it internally in different. I do it every day. Mm-hmm. You know, like you've just disclosed. I hate that word. You've just shared your story, a bit of your story. We do that every day.
Do you know what? The best gift that you could ever give anybody is vulnerability.
Yeah, that's right.
Because when
I
I'm
don't know.
vulnerable,
That's right,
you
yeah.
then
It
feel
opens the door.
comfortable
Exactly.
to be vulnerable.
Exactly.
It's okay. I'm just authentic, and
Yeah,
you're
it's
going to
right.
get what you see.
No, exactly.
There's no.
But I think that's what clearly drives you. It certainly drives me. I don't know whether people see that, but that desire to recognise in the other their potential, and that sounds very paternalistic. I don't mean it to be that, but I've been the kid who would have wanted to ring a helpline, but it wasn't there.
Yeah.
I've been the kid who would have wanted to be part of the game, but actually was left out. I've been the one saying, you have those three and we'll have to have him. That sounds like a poor little me, but I'm trying to resonate with what it might be like for a child who's deaf in a hearing world, who's forced to sit on his hands and voice.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate and I love the history of the science school where the nuns would beat you on your hands and then you'd
I know.
and blow on your hand. I mean, that's so powerful.
Imagine
that you've been
you
punished
get
for being
caned
you
for
know,
signing.
we criminalised homosexuality. We didn't criminalise deaf people. We locked them up.
Yeah.
You know, and so there's a huge synergy there. Where do I want to go next with this? I guess I want to go back to my feelings, and my feelings is we arranged to make a video together. I'm feeling so. It's your word now, privileged.
Yeah.
And opening that vulnerable door about we did have a script and we binned it. And actually I think that's a very powerful image.
Yeah.
Bin the script.
Yeah.
Say who you are.
Yeah.
In front of a minister, on a helpline.
Yeah.
Say who you are, what's the worst that can happen?
Yeah, exactly.
Neither of us has died yet.
Yeah.
You know, what's the worst that can
Yeah.
happen in saying, in our case, I'm struggling, I'm thinking about suicide. So maybe I should say a little bit for viewers about what we offer. So we run a service which was founded in 2005, so it's 20 years old, and it's adapted, it's changed. So it started as a response to families asking the question, will my child be the next one to kill themselves? You know, you read in the newspapers, and certainly in the early 2000s, late 90s, you were hearing a lot of suicide young people. And families were worrying and saying, I don't know whether my child is suicidal. So we set up a service prior to me starting, which basically said it was a parents' helpline. I'm worried about my child, what do I do? And we gave practical advice, which essentially boils down to one thing. You don't know if your child is thinking about suicide, so find out. Ask them. Ask them the question, are you thinking about suicide? And then the service grew and grew and grew, small numbers at first, and it grew over the years. So I started in 2010, and we adapted it a little bit, and now we, almost by accident, attracted young people themselves who wanted to phone up. Never mind my mum. I can't talk to my mum, so I'll phone them and talk about myself. So now we've got two audiences: parents and the children and young people and young adults. We go up to 35, by the way. So if you're 45, 55, 65, I don't care. Ring us anyway. Use our service.
Okay.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Age is just a number.
Yeah.
So if you need to contact us, doesn't matter. And then over the years, it changed again because professionals were ringing us saying, I'm a doctor and I'm worried that I've said the wrong thing. Well, unless you're encouraging somebody to kill themselves, you're not going to do the wrong thing.
Yeah.
So sometimes we're just affirming, you've done a good thing, well done, do it
Yeah.
again tomorrow, you know.
Yeah.
So those three audiences have emerged. And then in parallel, we started with just the phone before I started. Young people don't use phones.
Do you remember them? We're at one of them.
The young people, even now, a lot of young people, I'm an old fart because I use the phone. Everyone's texting. So
Yeah.
in 2011, we introduced text. But of course, deaf people can text. So I thought, that's great. You know, we've practiced. And email.
It's English.
We found that mums and dads used email more than text. Text is for young people.
Yeah.
And then, of course, at the same time, we introduced Instagram, Facebook. Remind me.
Facebook.
Facebook. I forgot. No, it's not Facebook. Yeah, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. All of that over the years.
Yeah, I love TikTok.
And lots of young people will never know that they've used our service because it's silent and they're just reading on the website. So we've developed those services. But recently, about 1 year ago, we really tried hard to understand your communities, so the deaf and the acquired hearing loss communities' needs, and that's where we introduced this. New service with Sign
Health.
Sign Health. That's
Yeah.
right. Sign Health.
Yeah.
So people can contact us through the website, click a simple link, they get through to a experienced translator. They will only see the translator will contact our advisor, so it's a three-way help.
Yeah.
But we remain anonymous, so if the deaf person using our service wants to tell them their name, that's up to them. We wouldn't. But their story is important, their individual story, what I call their more than.
Yeah.
I am suicidal just now, but I am more than that. Tell me what's the more than as well. And it's that more than what will save the life.
See, isn't technology amazing? So it's amazing in one way. So over the years, the deaf community always used to come together. So they would meet, so it'd be a deaf club and they'd have a drink, bingo, dominoes, and chat and tell each other news that they're going to find out. Obviously, because we've got lots of sources that we can go and tap into and get. Our deaf community is limited with the information that they can get, so they rely on each other. So technology then improved. So we've got text messages, then we've got FaceTime. So what happened is the budgets and the funding for the deaf community coming together ran out. Because the young ones were going texting, FaceTiming, which meant these communities are going, but where does everybody go together? For me, my vision for the deaf community was bring them back. Okay, the government said, look, you know, we're closed everybody's going to be independent. And I went, no way. So as growing up, being hard of hearing and being kind of written off, when somebody says you can't do something, I go watch. And that is my absolute determination to go, you don't think I can do it? I might not be able to do it on my own, but watch, I can collect an army and we can do it together. Whether I've got all the skills to be able to do that or not, together we will have.
Yeah, that's fantastic. The other side of that technology story for us is as a campaign organisation, we're really, we were the first in some ways before other charities in saying the internet is a dangerous place. It's really dangerous. So we all know about sex online. We all learn about sex online these days. And a good story to share with you is about 10 years ago, one of the internet providers asked parents in a survey, what's your biggest worry? Sex online, you know, all the pornography, came in at number 13.
Wow, what was number one?
Suicide.
Wow.
Second, self-harm. But I think in some ways, at least it's out there. It can't be hidden. But in the hearing world, Deb, we can hide it.
Yeah.
We can hide it and we can pretend it doesn't happen.
Yeah. I just want to ask, while we've been sat here, a couple of times I've had to swallow, because it's a really tough subject to talk about and can be triggering, can't it? But have you guys at work in this day in, day out, and whether you've had a conversation with somebody and you've found out that they have passed away, how do you look after each other working in this such a sensitive environment that's really hard hitting?
Let me start by my experience of you, which is you take for granted what you do.
Yeah.
And you're wonderful.
Yeah.
And we probably don't recognise that we're in this. Even as you asked the question, that I thought, oh yeah, we just talk about suicide. You know, there's a wee boy due to come into the office today who's got lived experience of suicide in his family, and he climbed a mountain and raised money for us. Breaks your heart. And if it doesn't break my heart, I'm in the wrong job. Yeah. If I don't cry with him and laugh with him as well, I'm in the wrong job.
Yeah.
And I think we've got a good disposition as a charity. I hope that our staff feel that they can say, that really got to me.
Yeah.
In a way, I'm saying that I'm the leader, and if I don't model that, I have to. If I'm not moved by the death of 3 girls and their 3 dads walking across mountains to raise money for us, I'm in the wrong job. But we can become blasé, and in a way, I always say, if the undertaker cries at every funeral, he'd never get his job done as well. So there's a balance, isn't there? So we should never forget that every suicide, in a way, is a failure for us. But we're not in charge of people's lives. Suicide, in its origins as a word, means the self. The self kills, and it's so tragic. We as society need to do everything in our resource and work together, because we ain't got all the answers. You ain't got the answers. We're working together. We can be the best we can be, but ultimately, we can only help the person see why they may want to stay alive. Yeah. And we can't fix everything.
There's a saying, isn't there? I can't do your sit-ups.
I can't do my sit-ups. Yeah, it's very interesting.
Isn't it?
Yeah. But I think it's very important that I often say to the people on the end of the phones, go home and say to yourself, I did the best I could be. I was the best I could be today. And then go to bed. Yeah. You are not responsible if the outcome is the one you didn't hope for.
We all have our own life path.
But I would say this as well to people outside who think, it must be dreadful working in suicide prevention. We're about life, not death. Yeah. If you look at our website, sometimes people say, it's a bit death-bound. Of course, we've got to share the problem. Yeah. It's like you saying deaf people are disenfranchised. But actually, they're wonderful individuals with all the things that life gives them. Yeah. So we're about life, and we need to pronounce that more.
It's very similar, isn't it? Because while we battle every day and see that that they're let down by society and services at every step, as well as wonderfully we can give them these opportunities and create this community and bring people together and see amazing successes as well as the battling, which is exactly the same for you guys, isn't it?
I've got this. I've said it again and again during our time together, but we risk reducing ourselves to our parts, and we do that to our self as well. I'm a chief exec, or I'm a this, or I'm not very good at rugby, so that means I'll never try.
Okay.
So I grew up thinking I was rubbish at sport, and then my dad got sick, and on a whim I bought a bike and I became a champion cyclist for the next 3 years. What happened there?
Isn't it?
So we reduce ourselves to something at our peril, and again I'll say it. When you're suicidal, I talk about the suicidal cocoon. We lose control over whether my relationship can be repaired, or whether my debts can be paid, or whether my sexuality can be changed, or whatever it is that's troubling you then. The only thing that a person can control is whether they should stay alive, to be or not to be. Yeah. And actually, if we can remind them in that sacred space that's important. We stand with them there, holding them with them. But actually, there's more to them than that as well, and that more than will save them.
Yeah. I mean, us as human beings, why do we always kind of focus on the negative? My community will come to me, lots of them, all the time. I'm really rubbish at maths and English. I go, and? What are you good at? Does it matter? What are you good at? Let's look at what you're good at.
That's right, yeah.
You know, and I think once you start kind of exploring...
But I want to push us a bit internally, Deb, as well. As leaders, I think we have a duty to model that vulnerability to others. We've talked a little bit about that, but we've got to be really honest. Sometimes I gave a talk once, a big posh lecture hall, and I dared to say, I suffer from imposter syndrome. Am I the only one here? And there was a pregnant silence, and then people's hands started going up. I don't know anyone who doesn't suffer with imposter syndrome.
I'm complete opposite, and we just had this conversation. I was at an event speaking, and this lady said, "You know, I've got like imposter syndrome," and I went, "Do you know what? I haven't. I should be here, and I should be here because of everything that I've been through.
No, that's great.
Made me become here, and absolutely deserve my place here."
No, it's a great inspiration. Yeah. I heard I was in a charities conference, and a lady stood at the front and said people were criticising chief exec salaries, and she said, "I get what I get paid because of what I do and because of what I've learned and da-di-da." And partly I'm going, oh God. But she's right, but it's a difficult... Yeah. We can talk about suicide and sex before we talk about salaries. Yeah. That's the British way, isn't it? Yeah. But whatever it is that's making you feel less than you should be, we need to redeem that.
Absolutely.
We need to hold that and hold it to account and say... So what? I love that phrase in cognitive behaviour therapy. What's the worst that could happen? Once it's out there, what can people do? They can criticise it, and they can say, "Oh, okay, so you're gay, or you're deaf, or you earn too much, or whatever." What's the worst? But I think there's something about that self thing that's important, and I want to talk about self-care, especially because we're sitting next to part of my self-care. I know that my mental health is better. I'm going to play with an idea here. Not because I have a dog, but because I made the decision to buy a dog and change my life to have a dog. Does that make sense? So I'm big on agency. And again, I don't know how that transliterates into sign language, but I am more than, and I can choose. Now, I know that I can't choose to go to Barbados. I can't choose to move house if I'm in a relationship. You know, there are some things that I can't choose. But within your world, there are things that you can have agency over. I can ring the doctor. I can ring a helpline and get help. Does that make sense?
You know, we are, as human beings, we don't give ourselves credit at all. So you think, from going back 2005 when you came on board and created this whole business, that was a thought in your head. A vision of what you wanted to see, because you could see what was happening here, and that vision. So this is a thought in our head, human being that comes to reality. Yeah. Look at where you are, look at what you've developed, and look what we've done at the village as well. Yeah. From a thought, so we can change that thought process, and it's understanding that we can change that thought process. And,
that's right.
You know, no, I should be here, absolutely.
But you know what drives that for me is anger.
Yeah, frustration. Yeah.
For me, it's anger, but I think a word that I've sort of come to like is passion. Yeah. And anger has got two ingredients. Passion has got two ingredients. One's love. One's love and anger. So
that drive. I'm
privileged that I haven't lost a child to suicide. I have lost my cousin to suicide, and it's devastating. And I can only imagine what it's like to lose a child. But I am privileged almost every week, at least once, to meet or speak with a parent who's lost a child. And I'm not saying it's a worse loss. I'm saying it's a particular loss. A lot of parents are angry. And obviously, in most cases, they're absolutely devastated because of the love that's been lost or changed because of the incident. But when those two are mixed, we can change the world.
Yeah, fire.
We can change the world,
Absolutely.
really. And you say
we can all change the world.
You're very lovely by saying credit me with the growth of Papyrus. I've been one of many who've come and gone,
Yeah.
and the driver for most of the policy change in this field have been people who've lost others and don't want anyone to go through it.
Yeah.
It's people like you who know what it's like
Yeah.
to be that kid in the playground.
20 years ago, God, the passion I had.
Yeah.
Like, I used to question myself thinking, "Ooh, in 10 years, I'm still going to be passionate." I tell you what, I am more passionate than I've ever been.
Yeah.
When I first started, and you didn't think you could have it any more passion
Yeah.
than that. But there's
Yeah.
this drive of people and lives that you change and that you touch. And
I think it's important to say though, and this is quite personal, I think, and I would challenge you as I challenge myself. If I get in the way of it, I should step down.
Yeah.
If I get in the
Yeah.
way of that
growth,
and
yeah.
also growth is not always in numbers. You know, just now we're rationalising possibly going smaller in order because of circumstance, but actually that's growth.
It is.
Pruning is very important to grow.
Absolutely.
And to become the better.
Yes.
The better new.
Yes.
The better new that we
It's
can
not
be.
about numbers sometimes,
No,
is
no,
it?
no.
I completely agree with that.
What do you do to switch off?
Oh, this is really terrible.
I bet you
So,
don't switch off.
right, I don't switch off, right? I'm 100 miles an hour,
Yeah.
completely 100 miles an hour. If you've seen The Village and seen what we've done in the last 3 years, it's just absolute passion, commitment, tears, blood, sweat, everything. I've poured everything into it. So I don't sleep. I think half that is menopause as well. But obviously my mind is just all over the place, like 1,000 miles an hour constantly.
Yeah, sure.
So I'm either all or nothing. We had a little conversation earlier. I'm either all or nothing. So recently I've kind of done a lot of the building work and got the whole foundations of a whole business set up, and it's amazing where it needs to be. There's sometimes I just need to shut down and have a bed day. And you feel guilty about having a bed day. I don't want to get up today. I've got children, they're 14. Well, I've got 4 children, but the twins are 14 now. But as a mother, you feel guilty at doing that. Do you know what I mean? They're fine, they're playing out and things, you know, but sometimes, and I think I've a little bit lost myself on this journey. So, to the point where I just need bed days and go, that's it. But I still get visitors because I've created a community and I just love people. So I'm never going to be on my own. If I'm in bed, I've got people coming to see me.
I think it's very interesting, and this might be seen as self-indulgent, us talking about what it's like to lead a charity, but it'll translate for everybody. If you've built something from the grassroots, you know, my sister and I opened all the boxes when we first came to Warrington from Burnley, and there was 3 staff when we started, and now it's, I don't know everybody because we're that big, you know, to my shame really. And my point is, it's hard to be the person who's the being at the top rather than the doing.
I know.
So I think there's a real problem in which affects all of our mental health. So this is not just about leadership. I think when you've been a doer, it's hard to be the person who's meant to inspire. All the literature says the charity lead should inspire. It's quite a tall order, really. I'm not sure I inspire. It takes me all my time to be civil to people sometimes. But actually, our job is to be and to think. So yesterday, unusually, I had an afternoon when I didn't have anything to do, and I really worked on not doing and thinking. And just thinking. That's my job.
Thinky action.
That's my job.
Okay. Thinky action. That is a really incredible word, because I am so fast and my brain's constantly going.
Yeah.
I feel like if I'm not doing anything, then I'm not doing anything. I've got to be doing. No, thinky action is doing.
That's right, yeah.
You're sitting down, you're thinking
but
about
again,
it. You are doing something.
In saying that, I'm saying to everybody watching this, whether you're working or not working, in your life, let alone your job, give yourself permission to be yourself, always. It took me a long time to bring myself to work. The little boy in the playground is now in work.
Yeah.
And everybody knows that. And I've talked about my story, not to be self-indulgent, but to model. You can be yourself at work as well.
Yeah.
Whatever you bring to work, bring it.
Yeah, yeah.
You know.
I don't want to be in charge today. I just don't want to be in charge. I am.
Yeah.
But it's okay to say that as well, because
Yeah.
you think, oh my, we've got to make
Yeah.
some decisions.
Yeah.
And everyone's relying on them decisions to be right. They're not always right.
No.
The mistakes, let's embrace the mistakes, because
I
that's
would
how we
say
learn.
I could name the decisions that I've had to make on my own. And usually it's in a room in SLT and I'll say, "Right, I'm going to call this.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of...
Yeah, yeah.
But actually,
Yeah.
most things
Yeah.
happen and come out of the woodwork,
Organically.
and it,
Just works.
Yeah,
That's how I
that's right.
found that definitely our organisation has developed.
So let me throw a challenge out, having challenged you about self-care. What's your hope for the deaf community, and what's your hope for society? How could people who are not deaf, what is your hope for people like me and the general public around the deaf community?
So another reason why we did the deaf community is because we want to bridge the gap between the hearing and the deaf. So we live in Blackburn, so the whole of the local area, we put lots of different events on within the village. It's just a beautiful place as well, but it's to bring people together, and really it's about education. When somebody comes into the village, right, and they learn that English is a different structure to British Sign Language, and they go, I just presume they could read, and they go away, oh my God. And you've got one of your colleagues who we spoke to today who said, I left the village and I went home and I couldn't stop thinking about it.
That's right, yeah.
You couldn't stop thinking about it.
That's
That's
great.
it. But until you're in that environment, you don't think about it.
I love that. It's a gift, that phrase. So maybe back at me, I would say, not that I want people to be thinking about suicide all the time. I want people to be suicide aware.
Yeah.
And I remember we were teaching some intervention skills. So basically, we're teaching a group of people how to spot somebody they're worried about and how to broach it and say, listen, mate, I'm thinking you're not yourself. Are you thinking about suicide? And that's so difficult for most people. And this person said, so are you basically saying you should be asking everyone? Now, I'm not suggesting there's an answer to that, but the attitude behind it is very important. Why wouldn't we be conscious all the time?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't I be conscious all the time this person may not be able to hear me?
Yeah.
Why don't I face them instead of mumbling? Why don't I think maybe
that another person might.
Yeah, and maybe just sharing that with each other. What you take for granted is another.
Yeah.
That person from our team who was incredulous that reading was a different thing for a deaf person. That's a gift that you've shared, and it'll stick in their mind. Yeah, it's lovely.
And it's all about education, isn't it? And being open. And you touched on something, and if you, it's not about, I think, seeing anybody that's down. I think if you see somebody on the street and they've got a beautiful dress on, tell them it's beautiful. Tell them you love the shoes, because that sticks with them. That little thing could help somebody who was suicidal, thinking actually they have no idea, but they've just made my day. Be kind.
I think the point you make is very strong, but you've reminded me of a story where a woman whose son had taken his own life. We were at the inquest, and the GP came to talk about their experience of the boy who'd died. And the GP said, that's the thing, he was smartly dressed and he looked good, and therefore I thought he was okay.
Because we're all pretending,
and
we're all hiding.
And didn't ask, that's right. So back to us, this sounds self-indulgent, but, they're all right, they're the boss, they'll know the answer. Actually, maybe they don't. No. Maybe you could give them the answer and talk,
We're all human.
Absolutely, yeah.
Whether you've got a title, whether you're this, whether you're that.
Exactly.
We're all human.
Exactly.
No matter what colour.
Unless you're a dog.
Yeah, well-behaved dog as well.
What do you think, Gibbs?
Any contributions? How are you feeling today?
So I hope that's been helpful for people watching this. I found that really enriching, Deb, and I really look forward to off camera making this more real. And
absolutely, definitely. Yeah, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah.